Hello and welcome to the React lecture 6. So in this lecture we'll see React object rendering. So the object rendering can be just a simple object. So for example, object has just the property and the value, okay, and the property value, right? So that's the simple object, but it also can be complicated, like you have property value, and then it can be also the value can be another object, like so which is the nested object rendering. Okay. So we'll see both of them, and then there are two ways you can do the rendering. One is that direct property access with the property name. Okay, so object dot property name, and then you can access it. Okay, so this is suitable when you don't have so many properties set inside your object. So you have property one, property two, right? So if you don't have many, then it's fine. But sometimes maybe you have more property, and then you don't want to access them directly. Okay, so the other approach is the dynamic approach called Object.entries method. Okay, which basically return an array, the nested array. So we'll see in the next slide what it looks like with an example. Okay, so this is like more dynamic approach. So we'll see both the way that how we can render the JavaScript object inside the JSX statement. Okay, or JSX expression. Okay, so here we have a simple object. So for example, here we have a student object, and then student has the property name, and then value is say Adam. ID is the property value is this. GPA is the property value is this, and then you can directly you can render them through just use the expression symbol, curly braces, and then object name and property name. Okay, and you can do that. So you need to know all the property name. Well, so then you can write that way. Okay, so it's very simple. But if you want the dynamic way, so that you don't need to know what are the property name. Okay, so in that case, what we can do, we can write object.entries, okay, and then pass the object. So this basically will return you a nested array, okay, in the form of property and the value. Okay, so like say for example, you have name, comma, value is Adam, right? And then you get another array which is ID and then value of ID, okay, like this. So for example here, okay, so there should be another one, GPN 3.5. So you can write another one. Okay. So another array will be created. So since this is a nested array, now we can use the map method. Okay. So in the map method, you see that so we have this portion, right? And this portion we can destructure it. We can say, okay, so we divide it into, okay, so this is a key and value. So we destructure it, right? So the key is basically this one and value is this one, okay? And then we can show what is the key and what is the value. Okay, so additionally, since this is an array, so each element has an index position, right? Value. So we can also use that one here for the key value, okay? Since in React, we need to pass the key value, okay, when you want to map, okay, an array. Okay, so each child should have the key so that React can dynamically um, update that specific child. So, so the object.entries basically provide you the key and the value pair. Okay, key value pair. Uh, but there are other alternatives, right? If you want to just get the keys, okay, so it will return all the keys, okay, name, ID, GPA, okay, so these are the keys. And then if you want object.values, then you will just get the values, right? This, okay. um So if you just need the values, you can just write like this. If you only want to see the keys, and if you know the key, you can also get the value as well, right? So if you write, so whatever the object is, right, and inside the object, if you write the key, you can also get the value. So if you get the key, you can also get the value. But if you just get the values, so if you need the key, you cannot get it. So the best and recommended approach is this one, object.entries, because you have both the key and the value, and you have more freedom that which one you want to show. That means render, and which one is not. Okay. So the next one is nested object rendering. Okay, so nested object. So let's say that we have a student name property, ID property, GPA property, and address property. And the value of the address is also an object. Okay, so here you have, let's say that address have the city property, and then this is the value, and zip code property, and this is the value. Okay, so how you can render it? I mean, the direct access is not difficult, it's easy, but it has a limitation because you need to know all the property and then you write it, right? And then maybe um, what happened that one property is missing for someone, for some student, or something like that. Then you also need to check that whether the student had that property or not, right? Um, but the other limitation is if you have many property and the value pair, then you need to write all of them manually, right? But this is easy, right? So you write, okay, so for example, we saw this part, and then now let's say that if you want to render the city value, then you need to go student.address.city, and then to render the zip code value, student.address.zip code. Okay, so you can render it very easily. Okay, direct property access. Now if you see that you want to do dynamically, um, then you don't need to know the exact property name, but you need to know the structure of it, and then based on that, so we need to check that whether the value of any property as an object. If it is, then we also need to map this one, right? So first we'll map this object. Okay, so with the object.entries and dot map, so we'll get the key and the value, key and the value, key and the value, key and the value, right? So we'll get that. So if none of the value of those keys are objects, so we can just write as render it as key and value. Okay, that's the way that we did previously. But for this one, the value itself is an object. So that's why we are checking here. The type of the value is the object. If it is, so that's the ternary operator here. Okay, so whether this is true, if it is true, then you need to go here, and this one is another object, so you need to do the same thing, object.entries, and this time we'll pass the value. Okay, and then so value of this property. Okay, or you can say we write as a key. Okay, the property is basically the key here. Okay, so this value, which is the objects, we need to map it. Okay, so now we spread it, and then we'll get so the array of this, right? So we'll get city, and then value of the city. So this is one array, and then other array is zip code, and then value of the zip code. Okay, so we'll get this nested array. So we'll write, so it's destructured this one as the sub key and the sub value, and then the index position of this index position is the sub index. Okay, so now we are displaying this one and this one. Okay, and then assigning the key value as the sub index. Okay, so you see that this one is a little bit more coding and more conceptual things is, but once you write it, you are done. Okay, so you don't need to go and check all the property. Okay, So you saw both the way how you can access the object and render it in the JavaScript expressions. So in the next video, we'll see how to implement them in the VS Code. Okay, so see you in the